Hello FlossTube, my name is Leann and I am leann.stitches here on YouTube and on Instagram. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook as Forbidden Fiber Co. Today is Monday, September 1st, 2025, but you're not seeing this until about a week from now. But today is the day that I am starting my new fall rotation, and I wanted to show you my fall projects and before I started stitching on them. And also I thought it would be fun to tell you how I came up with my new fall rotation, because I am changing it up a little bit for this fall in preparation for planning my 2026 plans. So let me tell you how it started. I have loved knowing that I've touched every single project this year so far. I still have to touch my autumn projects, but once I get through my first round of projects on my wheel, I'll have touched every single project at least once, more like 2 to 3 times this year. And after filming my whip parade at the beginning of the year, that's a really good feeling, because there were a lot of projects that I realized I hadn't touched in several years, and that kind of drove the way I stitched this year. However, I didn't get a lot of progress on those, on all of my whips. And after my birthday start, I will be up to 50 whips. And I've always hovered around 30, 35, depending on, and last year I started a lot of projects, and this year I only finished one that I know of, other than model stitches. So I really didn't even start that many this year. I think I started 4 or 5, but because I didn't finish anything, I have now hit that 50 mark. So I don't really plan on starting anything next year. I want to touch all of my projects again, but I want to see more progress and I want to see more finishes. Most of my seasonal rotations this year had 7 or 8 projects. My winter rotation only had 4, so I got to see a lot more progress on those. But even so, 30 minutes a day, whether 4 projects or 8 projects, really isn't that much. So there were times when I maybe put 300 or 400 stitches into a full coverage piece. It's not enough. I had 2 focus wheels this year with 17 projects total. Every time I started a new project, I put it on that full coverage focus wheel. I had a non-full coverage focus wheel that did have a couple of full coverage projects on there, because I either wanted to make more progress on them because they're gifts, or it was a smaller full coverage piece that I thought I have a better chance of finishing soon. So I had a focus wheel and a full coverage wheel that I just wanted to see progress on. 17 projects, 3 days per spin. I really thought I'd touch each one 4 or 5 times this year. Even if I had non-stitchy days, I just thought I'd be touching it more. But I've had a lot more non-stitchy days than I expected, just because I hit a slump for 6 weeks and I didn't do anything but read a whole bunch of books. I have had 2 or 3 days a week recently where I don't stitch at all because of work or my kids' school activities or whatever. And I really didn't get as much project even on those, as much progress even on those, and especially the ones that I thought I had a good chance of finishing. So I've started to see floss tubers talking about making 2026 plans, and that has really gotten my wheels moving on how I can push my bigger full coverage pieces closer to a finish, how I can push my smaller pieces to a finish, and still touch every single piece at least once. And then I started to get overwhelmed. And so I asked my good friend ChatGPT. I am not really friends with ChatGPT. I'm not crazy. AI is not real. But I do have conversations with ChatGPT quite regularly, so take that for what you will. Sometimes I go to ChatGPT because I have a lot of thoughts in my head and it will organize them for me. So all of those things I just listed off to you, all of the things that I was frustrated with about my 2025 rotation schedule, all of the things I knew I wanted to accomplish in 2026, I started to feel overwhelmed. So I programmed them all in. I typed them all into ChatGPT, and it spit them all back out at me in an organized fashion. And that's really helpful for someone like me where I get overwhelmed by my thoughts a lot. Okay, I've got notes. So I summarized my 2025 rotation plans. I explained what I liked and what I didn't like, which is everything I just told you. And then it summarized everything for me in a very clear list. Then it said, would you like me to suggest some new rotation models for you for next year? And I said, sure, why not? It's not why I started the conversation. I really was trying to organize my thought. But why not? Let's see what ChatGPT can come up with. It gave me 5 rotation models. The first one, it said, and I'm just going to read this straight from my notes, prioritize completions with a finish slot. So what it suggested was that I dedicate 1 night per month to a project that is close to finishing. Once it's finished, then I put in a new project that's close to a finish and keep going until the end of the year, basically, until I finish all of the things. ChatGPT thought that I could finish 8 to 12 projects doing that. ChatGPT doesn't know how much is left on my projects because it's just not happening, especially with how many full coverage projects I have, especially with even my smaller projects, how far away most of them are from a finish. Number 2 was a weight, quote unquote, focus wheel. Instead of the 2 focus wheels that I had with 10 to 12 projects each, remember there were 17 projects, but some of them I had on both wheels. Instead of those 2 wheels with 10 to 12 projects each, it said I should have a wheel with my big projects, my BAPs, 8 to 10 long-term BAPs, and I should spin them twice. So each project would not spin them twice. I should do 2 rotations on each project as I spun it. So that means 6 days per project before I move on. And then my smaller projects, wheel B, would have those medium or smaller projects, and I would stitch on them 3 days before spinning again. I didn't really like that because even filming every other week like I do, I just felt like I wouldn't really have much to show. And that's a silly reason to do or not do something. But my FlossTube videos and making sure I have content for them help me make sure that I am stitching. Because if I'm not filming, there's no accountability. And even if nobody watches this video, I'm still holding myself accountable by filming this video. So that one wasn't going to work for me. The third suggestion was seasonal block adjustments. So instead of 30 minutes a day or 100 stitches, which is what I've been doing, it suggested for my seasonal rotation, so winter, spring, summer, fall, I'd give projects 2 to 3 evenings per week for bigger chunks of time. So instead of 1 day at 30 minutes, I should give it 2 or 3 days at 30 minutes before I spin the wheel again. And then the second option in this rotation was to pick 1 seasonal project each session as a primary and work it more heavily while spinning for a variety set just some of the days. So it's saying if I have 8 seasonal projects, instead of spinning my focus or one of my focus wheels for my night's stitching, which is a block of 1 to 3 hours, it's saying work on one of your seasonal projects for that 1 to 3 hour chunk of focus time, and then you'll see it move forward a little bit. That one wasn't terrible, that idea. I didn't like the giving the projects 2 to 3 evenings a week because I like rotating through my projects every day, but the giving a seasonal project one of my days, not a terrible idea. I could warm up to that. The fourth option was rotation by finish type. It split my focus time each evening into 2, 1 time slot for each focus wheel. So it's saying I focused on 1 project per night from my 2 wheels, gave it 1 to 3 hours per night, depending on how much stitching time I had that night. And I gave it 3 nights. This was saying I should split that time into 2 and do 1 of my focus wheel and 1 of my full coverage wheels. I didn't like that because I was already working on 4 projects a day, and now it's saying, well, you should work on 5 projects a day. Wasn't going to happen. Then it also said a quarterly reset to keep momentum and prevent the wheels from scattering my focus too much. So every 3 months, review my works in progress, my WIPs, and identify 1 to 2 projects that must be finished next quarter, 1 to 2 bigger projects that deserve time, and 1 to 2 seasonal projects that I'm excited about. That's great, but I'm not going to touch every piece that way. So those are the 5 suggestions that ChatGPT said. Then it said, would you like me to create a sample rotation for these options? And I said, that would be great, because again, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed at all these options and thinking through each thing and what it means for my goals. So it immediately threw out the last 2, the rotation by finish type and the quarterly reset. Don't know why it threw out those 2, but it only gave me sample stitching, sample stitching schedule for the first 3. So option 1 was it called it the balanced hybrid approach, progress plus finishes. So daily, and I did tell it that I wanted to increase my marvel stitching by 75 stitches per day. At this point, I should tell you my rotation this year, if you haven't seen my videos, is I stitch 50 stitches per day on Marvel Heroes to finish it next year. I stitch 30 minutes per day on Sleigh Ride to finish it this year. I stitch 30 minutes or 100 stitches per day on my seasonal rotation. And then the rest of the evening goes to my focus project, whether it's my focus wheel or my full coverage wheel. So it suggests 75 stitches a day on Marvel, because I did tell it I was increasing that from 50 to 75 next year to finish, because I think I'll have 18,000 stitches left if everything goes well for the rest of the year. 30 minutes a day on a finish this year project. So it's saying I'm going to finish Sleigh Ride, so I should put in another project in that slot as my finish it this year and continue to work 30 minutes a day on that project, which I actually hadn't thought of. I thought I'm going to finish Sleigh Ride and I'm going to be done, and next year I'm just going to work on 3 projects a night. So this is the first time I actually considered keeping that 30-minute a day slot. Then it said I should do 45 to 60 minutes on my seasonal slot and still do my wheel spin, which I didn't like that, because 30 minutes a day is already pushing it on a lot of days, especially on days like today where it's already 6:30 and I haven't even started stitching, and I like to be in bed by 10:30. So it's already pushing it on those days. I likely will have an hour maybe on my focus piece tonight. Then it said my evening focus, my 1 to 3 hours, days 1 and 2 of the week, I should do a focus wheel. And this would be, instead of having 2 wheels, I would just have 1 wheel. All 17 of those projects would go on 1 wheel. And days 1 and 2, I would work on that. Day 3 would be a finish slot, a project that's close to done. And then I would just, instead of having a 7-day cycle, I would have a 3-day cycle for that focus slot and repeat it. So yeah, which is, I guess, is basically like what I do now. I do 3 days on my wheel, but this is saying do 2 days on the wheel and 1 day on a finished piece. Then, so the result is your big projects still get 2 out of 3 evenings, but you're also always chipping away on something that's finishable. So option 2 was a finish heavy rotation. Daily, 75 minutes on Marvel, 30 minutes on my 2026 finish project, 30 minutes on my seasonal slot, so it went back to 30 minutes for that wheel spin seasonal. And then my evening focus for 1 to 3 hours, Monday through Thursday, finish slot only. Keep working on 1 piece until it's finished. Friday through Sunday is my wheel spin for my focus and my full coverage, those 17 projects. So instead of working every day on those projects, I would only be working 3 days a week, even if it's weekends when I get more stitching. So essentially I'd only be working 1 project per week, and it'd take me 17 weeks till I hit another project, or until I got to reset that wheel. So essentially I'd touch each one of those projects maybe 3 times, so for a total of 9 days. The result is at least 1 project finished every 4 to 6 weeks. Not sure where it gets those numbers, but still keeps variety at the end of the week so you don't get burned out. I like that idea because I do get burned out on things. That's why I have so many projects. Okay, option 3, wheel heavy rotation, like what I'm doing now, but refined a little bit. Daily, 75 stitches on Marvel, 30 minutes on my 2026 finish project, 30 to 45 minutes on my seasonal slot of a wheel spin, which is exactly what I'm doing now, except 75 stitches on Marvel and instead of 50. And then my evening focus, it said, instead of having my wheel set up the way I do now with projects that are close to a finish or will be easier to finish, plus gifts and my full coverage, it said no matter what your project is, you're gonna have a BAPs wheel, which is essentially what I have now, and a wheel B of your medium or smaller projects. So I would then take my gift stitches off of my BAPs wheel and put them onto this medium or smaller wheel because they are medium or smaller projects. They are. They're not the 600, 400,000 big BAP projects. They're 50,000, 75,000, etc. Still big projects, but much smaller. It said wheel A. Oh, I think I wrote this down backwards. I did. Wheel A, I give 1 round of 3 days before each wheel spin. So those BAPs of mine get 3 days and then I respin the wheel. Wheel B, my medium or smaller projects, get 2. Is that right? Let me look at my notes again. Yeah, okay, I just wrote it down on my notes. I have 2 sets of notes, ones that I typed up and ones that I put in my planner. So I did write it down wrong on my notes for the video. So BAPs get 3 days, focus projects, finishers get 6 days. And I know I just said that I didn't like that idea because of accountability while filming, but I'm gonna address that too. Okay, the result is keeps the excitement of randomness, but doubles the attention for big projects. You still need to carve out quote unquote finish weekends to make sure smaller projects get wrapped up. I didn't address that at all in any of my plans, so yeah. Okay, then I asked, well, what's the this year finish project? And I've already told you what that is, but at this point, I wasn't sure what ChatGPT meant by that 30 minutes a day. I didn't realize it meant that I should replace Sleigh Ride with a new project I want to finish. So we went through that conversation. And then I decided I liked option 2, the finish heavy rotation. I liked the idea of spinning my wheel on my focus projects twice. And so ChatGPT re-summarized this option for me. And then after reading it again, I changed my mind. So I went back and forth with ChatGPT for a while. There was lots of back and forth, lots of ideas, lots of, well, that won't work because of this. Well, let me throw another wrench in it with this. And finally, it came up with another sample rotation with Marvel 75 stitches, the finish it project for 30 minutes, seasonal slot for 30 minutes or 100 stitches. Stays exactly the same except for Marvel goes up to 75 stitches. Then Monday through Thursday, wait. Okay, yeah, so Monday through Thursday is the finish slot, which I talked about before, where I pick a project that's close to a finish and I just stitch on it Monday through Thursday till it's done. Friday through Sunday was my focus wheel, with the priority BAPs get a double 3-day turn, secondary BAPs get a single 3-day turn, plus assign 1 anchor BAP each month for extra love. I don't know about you, but I was getting lost. There was so much information being thrown at me, and I had gone back and forth with ChatGPT for so long, and I was scrolling up and down on my phone, trying to remember everything we talked about, trying to remember all the options that had thrown at me. And I'm like, I'm back where I started. I'm completely confused. And I said, okay, how about this? Let's apply this to my fall stitching rotation. And see, I wanted to see how it was going to play out in real life with real projects, real goals, real everything. So I sat there and I listed out all of my projects that were in my fall seasonal rotation. And I said, this project, so fall bookshop, I'm starting fall bookshop on my birthday, September 5th. And it is a bigger project. It's not a BAP, it's a medium-sized full coverage piece. The stitching should be fairly fast. I haven't decided if I'm doing tent stitch or full cross yet, but it's not heavy confetti. And I have so many stitches left to go. I calculated it and I said, this is how many stitches are left on it. This is never more. This is a slow stitch because there's lots of counting. I am nowhere near a finish, and it's a medium-sized project. I listed out all my fall projects like that. I also listed out all of my 17 bigger focus projects. And I did the same exact thing, small to medium, fast stitcher. This is how many stitches I have left. So again, I had lots of back and forth with ChatGPT. Be way too confusing to get into it. I'm already 21 minutes in, and if I haven't lost you yet, I'm completely amazed. So I will tell you a couple of the wrenches that I threw in to the rotations that ChatGPT was giving back to me. The first rotation it gave me, and it listed Wednesday and that I should do this Monday through Wednesday and this Thursday, Friday, blah, blah, blah. I said, you know what? I rarely stitch on Wednesday nights. If I'm lucky, I'll get my stitches in on Marvel. Occasionally I'll get my stitches in on Sleigh Ride, but I go to church on Wednesday nights. I don't get home until 8 o'clock, sometimes later. I then have to get my kids in bed. I'm tired from working all day. I'm lucky if I even get my stitches in on Marvel, and usually I pick a block color. I pick some 939 and I pick a block section and I just get it knocked out. So I threw that in and I said, I'm just right off the bat gonna take away one of my stitching days every week. And that way, if I get any stitching in on that day, great. But if not, I haven't ruined my plans. The second wrench I threw into it was I have 3 shows that I'm traveling to this fall. I'm going to Dallas I leave on a Wednesday, I come back on a Monday, that's next month. I have SAF, which is Southeastern Animal Fiber Fair, that's in North Carolina, and that's leave on a Wednesday, get back on a Monday. And then I have the Alabama Fiber Fest in November that I'll be gone for like 3 or 4 days for. So I don't bring my rotation whips with me when I go on these trips. So typically when I go to shows, I bring knitting because I can knit on the show floor. And number 2, I plan to bring my Frosty, which is my Mill Hill kit, because it's a gift and it's very portable. I can stitch on it in the hotel room without an issue as long as I have some lighting. And so that's my plan for when I travel this fall. I need to finish it because it's a gift. So if I want to stitch, I'll stitch on Frosty, and then I'll bring my knitting. And then the last thing is that all of the sample rotations, they kept changing. And at one point, ChatGPT completely tossed out my focus wheels. So I was only stitching Marvel, a finisher project, and my seasonal projects, and there was no focus projects. So that was the third wrench I really threw in its plans. So it was at this point that I listed out all of my focus wheel projects, and I categorized them the same way I had my fall projects. I was wrong about that before. So we then sorted all of the projects I wanted to touch this fall into the following categories. Finishers, they were previously on my focus wheel. BAPs, previously on my full coverage focus wheel. Seasonals, all of my fall projects. Daily baselines, which is Marvel Heroes and Sleigh Ride. And my travel project, the Frosty that I'm gonna finish. And then we ended up with a rotation. Finally, I probably worked on this for 3 or 4 hours, like not in a row. Like I would type something, and while ChatGPT was thinking, I'd go flip some yarn and add some dye or whatever, you know? So, but we probably worked on it for 3 or 4 hours. After we settled on the rotation, I asked it, because it kept throwing out these things like, you can finish 8 to 12 projects this way, or you're gonna be able to do this way. And I'm like, but how do you know? How do you know that I can finish 8 to 12 projects when you don't even know? Like I just told you, they're not even close to a finish. How do you know how much stitching I get done on any given project on any given day? So I'm a numbers person. I am an accountant by trade, I guess. That's what my college degree is in. I'm a CPA. I was an auditor for years. Everything is numbers to me. So I told it, okay, I categorized these projects into slow, medium, and fast. Some are medium fast, some are slow, medium, but that's the categories I gave it when I input everything. So I put numbers to it and I said, you know, a slow project is 150 to 200 stitches per night. Although after stitching on Once Upon a Fairy Tale for the last couple nights, that's really more like 100 stitches per night if we're talking about that one specific project. Anyway, medium stitching is about 300 stitches per night. Fast stitching, which is like Frozen or sea glass, where it's all block stitching, I can easily get 500 stitches per night on those. Or Beatrix Potter Quaker, where it's all monochromatic, easily 500 stitches if I have a full 2 to 3 hours, not if I only have an hour. So if the whole point of this exercise was to get more progress on my projects, what exactly did ChatGPT think I could get done? So it calculated all of the non-stitchy days I gave it, all of my trips, all of my non-stitchy Wednesday nights, and calculated everything. It told me that I would have 76 stitching days between September, October, and November. And then said, this is how many stitches you can get done on this project, this is how many you can get done on this project, etc., etc. It doesn't leave room for busy nights, but that's kind of part of it. I thought it would make a fun game to say, hey, ChatGPT told me I'd get 1,500 stitches done on this project this year. What am I actually going to get done? Let's find out. Thought adding the game could be something fun. Then it said, would you like me to make some tools and trackers for you? Would you like me to design a spreadsheet for you to use? I said, sure. So we went back and forth on that again. And I pretty much hated everything they gave me, but essentially it boiled down to the name of the project, the goal that ChatGPT gave me, and then a chart for the date I stitched on it and how many stitches I stitched. Now, I don't count all of my stitches, but that's okay. It, the way we talked about it when I was talking ChatGPT through these charts was we were gamifying my stitching. I then adapted what it gave me and I actually put it into my stitching journal. And I'm going to show you because I like stickers. And there we are. That's my fall. Those are my fall stitching projects and how many days it thinks I'll stitch on it, and then what the goal is. And then I can log what I actually stitched to see if I come close. And then here's my finisher wheel. And then there's my focus ones where it thinks I'll only touch them maybe 3 times because, oh dear, it's backwards again. No, those are my finishers with two rotations per spin or whatever, two spins. And there's my BAPs with 1 spin. I have one more thing that I forgot to go over. Okay, and then I just decided to put my fall rotation out there with all of my projects and how I'm gonna go through them, just as a reminder. And because I had an extra page and I had cut out lots of stickers that still needed to be used. Okay, so the last thing that I forgot to go over is that one of the rotations that it gave me, when it was giving me the stitching goals, it switched from doing 3 nights per focus, finisher, or BAP to 1 night. And I said, wait a minute. 1 night per project is really fast. I like stitching 3 nights per project because it takes time to settle into a project. That first night, sometimes I'm remembering, what did I do on this? What did I switch this color out for? I have to get everything on the Q stamp, et cetera, et cetera. And it said, oh, okay, well then let me put you back on 3 days per rotation. I was like, great. Well, then it turns out I wouldn't get through all my projects in the fall. So I nixed that again and it said, okay, let's compromise. For the month of September, you stitch 1 day per spin on your focus wheels. And then in October, we will reevaluate. And if that was too fast for you, then we will go to 2 days stitching, because then I will have stitched 1 of my 3 days already. And then we switch it to 2 days in October and November. And then there's my 3 days, essentially, if that makes sense. That was done. We settled. So, would you like to know the actual plan? My original intention was to get out all of my projects, and I was going to show you the starting point on all of them, including all of my BAPs and my focus wheels and all of that However, it's like 7 o'clock at night and I would like to stitch tonight. So I'm just gonna show you the fall seasonal projects, and the rest will go through as I film my regular floss tubes. So the actual stitching plan, are you ready? Start with Marvel Heroes, 50 stitches per day. ChatGPT says I can get, actually ChatGPT's number lied, and I say I'm gonna get 4,500 stitches total done, because no matter what my non-stitchy days are, my ultimate goal this year is 1,500 stitches per month on Marvel Heroes. I boiled that down to 50 stitches per day. But if I don't get to stitch on a Wednesday, then I make sure at the end of the month, I still have stitched 1,500 stitches. If I have a prolonged non-stitchy period like I did earlier this year, I worked my butt off to catch up and made sure that by the end of June or July, I can't remember which month, I was all caught up on my goal of 1,500 stitches per day. So I say 4,500 stitches total on Marvel Heroes. Sleigh Ride, 30 minutes per day. ChatGPT says I can get 9,500 stitches done in that time. I don't know where that comes from. I don't track my stitches on Sleigh Ride. I literally only go by 30 minutes per day. And sometimes if I'm in the middle of something, I'll stitch a little bit more. So we're not gonna count stitches on that. It doesn't matter. I just thought that number was funny. Okay, the seasonal rotation. This is where the biggest change happens. Monday and Tuesday are the only days I am gonna spin a wheel. I have 4 projects on my fall rotation wheel. Let me get those out as I explain them to you. Okay, All Hallows Eve Sampler is the first one by Joan Elliott. That's really glary. And here's my starting point. And I am stitching this 2/2 with the called for DMC on a 32 count opalescent mystery fabric from way back when I first started dyeing fabric. ChatGPT says that I gave this a fast stitching category because it's monochromatic for the most part. It says I should get 5 spins on it and I should get 1,500 stitches done in my 30 minutes a day / 100 stitches. Not really sure how that math works out, but we're gonna try. The next project on my fall stitching wheel is going to be Nevermore by Leela Studio. And here is my starting point. I am stitching this 2/2 on a 32 count Morning Mist by Forbidden Fiber Co. And I am using a floss conversion to all Forbidden Fiber Co. flosses that we actually have available in the shop. This is actually one of our most popular kits. The third project in my fall rotation is going to be Parliament of Owls by Kathy Barrick. And this one is actually a pretty small project. There's just a lot of dense stitching in the Parliament houses, but lucky for me, I've done a lot of it. I've done and redone a lot of it because I've done a lot of frogging on this piece. I am stitching this 1/2 on a 40 count. I want to say this is Gramnet. It could be Tumbleweed by Forbidden Fiber Co. I'm using all the called for DMC except that black. I didn't want to get up and cut some DMC 310 and I had a skein of black Forbidden Fiber Co. floss sitting right next to me because I had just finished Christmas model stitch. So that's what I'm using. I can't remember what it's called, but it's not available in the shop. It was a one-of-a-kind Advent color. So yeah. That's a project I would really like to finish sooner rather than later because it is so small and I really, really love it. Oh, on Nevermore, because I gave it slow to medium, because there's lots of counting, ChatGPT says 5 spins, 750 stitches. Again, I haven't counted stitches on that to date, so we'll see if I'm going to count stitches or not. I might try to see if I can get it into Markup RXP, and see if I can do it that way, but I'm not gonna spend a ton of time on it. Parliament of Owls, I gave a medium stitching speed and it says 5 spins, 1,000 stitches. Again, I'll try to see if I can get into RXP, Markup RXP to see if I can count stitches, but if not, I'm not worried about it. The fourth and final project on my fall rotation wheel will be Pumpkin House by Liz Matthews. Love this one. Tiger Lily did a conversion thread pack into my flosses, and I am stitching this with that. And I'm stitching the top portion on Silent Night 1/2, 1/2 on a 40 count Silent Night. Did I say that already? Using those Forbidden Fiber Co flosses. And then the bottom half of the chart goes on a different color fabric, and I am putting it on Spellbound, again 40 count, so that they can match up. Here's the floss pack. It's so pretty. And that has a long way to go, and it's very dense stitching. So I don't see that project going anywhere anytime soon, at least not while I have this many other fall projects on the go. Okay, so that's Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday is a light stitching day. If I can, I will get my baseline stitching done, which is my Marvel Heroes and my sleigh ride. If I have more time, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Maybe I'll knit, maybe I'll read, maybe I'll do another wheel spin on those 4 projects. I don't really know. Thursday is going to be focus on Touching the Autumn Sky by Mirabilia. Now this is just the 30-minute slot. 30-minute slot. This is not going into my 1 to 3 hour slot, but it just means every Thursday for 30 minutes, I will work on this. So it will get at least 4 touches. Well, this says 10 touches. Oh, because September, October, November. This will get 10 touches for 1,250 stitches. Again, I don't count on this, so we'll see how that goes. But 10 touches because of those weeks I will be out of town. And that's my starting point. I'm stitching this 2/2 with the called for DMC, and I don't remember if there's any Kryneck. I don't think there's any beads. And I'm stitching it on a 32 count Belfast linen Babbling Brook by Forbidden Fiber Co. Okay, so that takes care of Monday through Thursday. Friday through Sunday, I'm gonna get a 3-day rotation for 100 stitches a day on my 2 fall full coverage pieces. So the first one is Autumn Montage by Janet Stever, charted by Pain Free Crafts. I don't have a paper, so I'll put the image up there. And here is my starting point. And this is one of these seasonal montages that I actually have quite a bit of progress on instead of just still stitching the frame. So I'm kind of excited to see, even though it's only 100 stitches, like that's 300 stitches per weekend, and I'm rotating. So every other weekend for 3 days, I will work on this for 100 stitches. And ChatGPT seems to think that I will stitch on this 15 times. I think because it's 3 days, so 5 weekends is 3 days, and I'll get 5,000 stitches on it. I'm not really sure how that works out, but that's what ChatGPT said, so that's what went on my fall scorecard. The other project I'm going to rotate with, so the first Friday through Sunday, the first Friday through Sunday, I'm going to be stitching this project, which is Fall Bookshop, because I'm starting it this Friday for my birthday. So this Friday through Sunday, I will stitch on this one. And then next week, Friday through Sunday, I will stitch on Autumn Montage, and then I'll keep going like that. I don't know how fast the stitching speed on this is. I did plug in how many stitches I have remaining. ChatGPT still seems to think that with 15 touches, I can get 5,000 stitches in on it. So that's what I put on my scorecard. Are you still with me? Okay, so after that 30 minutes or 100 stitches, I then will work on my focus wheel or my BAPs. And I am fixing my notes here from my mistake. Okay, I'm not gonna pull out all of these projects. I will put what they're gonna look like up there, but I'm gonna try to get through these fairly fast because we are at 44 minutes, and unlike my normal videos, I don't have a lot to edit out. I just talked a whole lot and went into a whole lot of details. But I had 7 pages of notes, so that shouldn't surprise me that much. Okay, so My focus wheel with the finishers has 9 projects on it. The first one is Sea Glass by Carolyn Manning. I categorize that at fast, and ChatGPT says 5 spins, 2,500 stitches. This is assuming I do one night. I do one night in September, and I keep doing that all the way through the end of the fall, at the end of November. If I decide to go to 2 nights in October, I don't know how this changes. Okay, Frozen, it says, it's by Aurora CS, 5 spins. I categorized it as fast. It says I will get 2,500 stitches. Mini Realm of Enchantment is artwork by Ann Stokes. It's charted by Heaven and Earth Designs, but it is retired. I categorize this as medium or fast because there is some confetti, but it's mostly a little bit more blockier stitching, not block stitching, but blockier. It says 5 spins, 2,000 stitches. Vintage Black Sampler is by Owl Forest Embroidery. And I categorize this as medium because even though it is a monochromatic pattern, I am not stitching it monochromatic. I am picking floss from my stash as I go to simulate my favorite fandom type things, entertainment type things. So it says 5 spins, 1,500 stitches. Beatrix Potter Quaker by Stitchy Box Sampler. I categorize that as fast because it's a monochromatic stitch, and it says I will get 5 spins and 2,500 stitches. Sakura Garden is, I can never remember the name of the designer. It's a medium pattern because while I am mostly stitching monochromatic on it because I'm trying to finish a lot of the 939, I got a little bored and I started peppering in other colors, but there's also a lot of counting. So it says 5 spins, 1,500 stitches. Words to Live By is by Tiny Modernist. And I said that was medium because there's a decent amount of color changes, but there's still a good amount of stitching per color. 5 spins, 1,500 stitches. A Year in Stitches, which is by Victorian Sampler. I said medium because again, I'm picking colors from my stash as I go. Plus there's some specialty stitches and sometimes I need to figure out how to do those. So 5 spins, 1,500 stitches. And I don't count on that one, so we'll see how that goes. The last project on my focus wheel is The Moons of 2022. I categorize this as medium fast. It's by Kathy Barrick, by the way. And there's one project that will only get 4 spins, and ChatGPT plugged this as it. I don't know why, since I'm spinning a wheel and it's random, but it said I will get 1,600 stitches. So I will spin that wheel twice though before moving on to my BAPs. So those it said I was going to get 5 spins per project. On my BAPs wheel, it says I'm only going to get 3 spins for most of these projects since I spin it once to the finisher wheel twice. So we have Once Upon a Fairy Tale, which we know for certain now is a slow stitch. 3 spins, it says 600 stitches, but I know that's a lie. So unless I get it on weekends, which is impossible. No, it's not impossible. Unless I get it on weekends, that's not going to happen. Reader's Paradise, I put it medium fast, 3 spins, 1,200 stitches. Sorry, both of those are artwork by Amy Stewart, charted by Heaven and Earth Design. God Shed His Grace, I can never remember the artist for this, but it is charted by the Cross Stitch Studio. 3 spins, 1,500 stitches because I categorized it as fast. It's so big that you can't help but have blocks of color, and the counting just hasn't been hard to date. A Beautiful Place, I categorized it as medium even though I'm stitching at 10 stitch just because I haven't gotten a lot of experience on it yet, and there is a lot of color changes, so I put it at medium, and it says 3 spins, I'll get 1,200 stitches on it. Beautiful Place is, I can't remember the artist, but it's charted by Stitches So Beautiful. Disneyland Map is charted by, I can't remember. I'll put it on the screen if I remember to. I categorize that as slow to medium. There's a lot of counting on this one. 3 spins, 750 stitches. The Hobbiton, I calculated as medium fast. There are blends, which makes it a little bit slower to change threads, but I'm stitching it 10th stitch, so that makes it go faster. That is by, I just looked this up. I can't remember. I'll put it on the screen if I remember. It'll all be in the description box below. I do that much. So I categorize that as medium fast. I already explained that. 3 spins, 1200 stitches. Snape's Library, I said was medium fast, even though I'm doing it full cross. As of yet, I have not stitched anything but 939. I'm not sure if I'm going to change that plan or not, but that's where I'm at. It will only get 2 spins. Again, some of these projects will only get spun twice, and these are the 2 that ChatGPT picked. 2 spins, 800 stitches. And last, the Grand Library, medium fast. I think I'm stitching at 10th stitch, but I can't remember for sure. 2 spins, 800 stitches. And then I have my travel project. This is a wild card. It needs to be finished by Christmas. I'm not going to track any stitches on it. It's not on my tracker anywhere. It just is what it is. That's a lot. I knew it was a lot as I was typing it up, but it was a lot. I hope I did not lose you. I hope you had fun listening to the inner workings of my conversations with ChatGPT as related to cross stitch. In summary, do all these numbers project as much progress on my bigger or focus projects as I would like? No, but I have a lot of projects that I want to touch regularly, and this is just what happens. I think it'll be a fun experiment. I really think it'll be fun to see if I can meet ChatGPT's projections. I think that turning it into a game like this will keep me interested in stitching every day, even if I'm tired. And what I really think it will do is I think it will help me solidify some theories on what I want to do for my 2026 stitching and how I want to make goals for that. If you have made it this far, drop me a computer or a keyboard or something technology related, just because I'd like to know if you listened to me ramble for 51 minutes and 31 seconds now. I hope you are having a great week, and I will see you later. Bye.